everyone. Welcome to the webinar on scaling what works, institutionalizing, and education in public education systems. My name is Jamie Lee. I am the Education Design Specialist at HundrED, and I'm so excited to have you all here today for this insightful discussion. So this webinar is part of a series of events that we are having hosted in collaboration with selected innovators of the Global Collection 2026. Today, I'm excited to be handing it over to Innovation for Poverty Action, who are the innovators behind the Innovation mEducation, which you will hear more about shortly. So a few housekeeping items. This webinar will be recorded, so don't worry if you miss anything. The recording will be published on the IPA and HundrED website. The webinar's participants' audio is also automatically muted and video function is disabled, so you won't be able to speak. But if you do have any questions, please go to the Q&A box and send in your questions, and we will try our best to answer them. And then if you want to also put them in the chat, we can also have a discussion there. And there are also translated captions in the Zoom. So if you want to translate it, we will be speaking in English today, but you can click show captions and then pick a different language if that helps you out. All right, so without further ado, I would like to introduce Noam Angris, the co-founder and executive director of Youth Impact and academic director of What Works for Global Education, to open up the stage. Noam is a researcher and expert in bridging the gap between evidence-based practices and policy implementation for the betterment of youth. As co-founder of Youth Impact, he has successfully scaled evidence-based programs benefiting over 150,000 youth across 10 countries. Noam has advised institutions such as the World Bank and UNICEF, helping develop metrics for improving learning outcomes in LMICs. Noam is also the academic director for What Works Hub for Global Education at the University of Oxford. He holds a BS in mathematics and economics from Massachusetts Institute of Technology and a PhD in public policy from the University of Oxford. A very impressive profile, but thank you so much and welcome, Noam.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. And it's so great to be here and great to be here with colleagues from IPA and from DepEd and from JPAL, close partnership to make this all possible between Youth Impact and IPA, JPAL, and DepEd. Yes, I'll just start by giving a bit of a quick origin of this approach. And then, of course, we'll hear from our colleagues. We started a version of mEducation, we called it ConnectED. And the idea was connecting children and households with education anytime, any place. We started this during the pandemic, during the COVID pandemic. And originally it started in Botswana. When schools were closed, we asked ourselves, how could we support education even when school is not in session? How do we provide continuity and resilience? And what we realized is even though children were not in school, many of them had a phone in the household. Sometimes it was their parents or their siblings. And we realized that was going to be the way to reach people. So we quickly collected phone numbers throughout the country. And then we had already been implementing effective programs in schools, like targeted instruction, focused on foundational literacy and numeracy, frequent assessment, and customizing instruction to the child. So we transferred a lot of that to the phone. So we started calling this both the platform, the phone, and the pedagogy, targeting instruction. And then interestingly, over the phone, it was actually a bit like tutoring because you're now one-on-one. So it was really targeted to the level of the child. We did this. And there was a lot of uncertainty. It was the pandemic. We didn't know if it was going to work. So we launched a randomized trial. And it was going to be the world's first evidence on distance education anywhere in the world. And within about a couple months, we had results. And it was amazing. It had worked really well. The children were learning. So we were amazed and we got very excited. And we released the results. And then we said, okay, we found something that works. And the pandemic was still going on. And so there was lots of interest around the world, including in the Philippines, and especially in the Philippines. And we were collaborating with the IPA team, as well as with DepEd. There was a lot of interest in DepEd. And so we launched a study in the Philippines as well, where there were very long school closures. And that was part of a coordinated multi-country study in the Philippines, in Nepal, in India, in Uganda, and in Kenya. Now, often when things work initially, you're already happy. Then, when they scale to multiple diverse contexts, sometimes things stop working. But the amazing thing is, we actually saw that the approach kept working in all the countries, in all 5 countries, which you almost never see. And so it felt like, wow, this is really an approach that can work in very different settings across the board. And in the Philippines specifically, because we had such a close partnership with DepEd, we actually did an arm where we had a kind of nonprofit implementation, NGO implementation, and also a version where it was the teachers in DepEd delivering. And we compared the two, and the teachers were just as effective, if not more effective. And that really suggested that this could work in the government system. And so it was really striking. These sets of results were really exciting. You rarely get this level of effectiveness, especially within these models embedded within government. And so that's a bit of the origin story. We again released the results. There was a lot of attention on this. And one of the really thrilling things is it continued. DepEd continued to be really interested in using this approach because school disruption is actually very common. And as colleagues will share, whether that's during heat, whether that's during typhoons, many things disrupt schooling. And so it became clear that this was an approach that was going to work well beyond COVID and had a lot of relevance. And in fact, even during non disruption, this was a way of reaching into the household and engaging caregivers. And in fact, we have some evidence that when you ask caregivers to get really involved, parents, it doubles the impact of the program. So this was really connecting the schools and the communities and the parents. And that was another big impact, even when school was in session. So it's been really exciting. And at this point, mEducation is now one of the most evidence-based programs in education in the world. It actually has some of the largest evidence base. It was the fastest multi-country evidence base ever produced in global education. So it really stands out as an evidence-based intervention, one that's resilient. And I think now the exciting part before us is how do we really scale this approach? And I know we're going to hear from colleagues both at the national office in DepEd as well as at the subnational offices, the SDOs, and really put our heads together on how we're seeing this approach take off and how it's scaling. But clearly, there's a lot of evidence and a lot of potential. So that's a bit of the origin story. I'm really excited to be with colleagues today to hear from them. So just a wonderful juncture to be at after all this evidence and with an exciting scale path ahead. So with that, I will close and looking forward to the rest of the session.
Thanks, Neil. Um, Great background, and as my presentation will go, I'll give more details on how mEducation started, uh, its impact, and our scaling plans. And before that, though, let me first introduce our organization, IPA. So IPA is an international nonprofit that aims to discover and advance what works to improve the lives of people living in poverty. And we do it through 3 main streams of work. The first one is by producing high quality research. The second one is making sure that this research reaches proper stakeholders. And finally, by making sure that these stakeholders are equipped to go through the results by supporting them through workshops and trainings in M&E. So IPA works in 16 country offices. In the Philippines, we started in 2002 and have conducted more than 100 research studies. Our focus is on education, financial inclusion, governance, and social protection. And one of our biggest projects is mEducation, which started in 2021, right in the middle of the pandemic. So this project would not have been possible if not for our partners, mainly Youth Impact, DepEd, the Ministry of Education for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao, JPAL, Wellspring, university partners, other NGOs like Save the Children, and many, many others. So for context, the Philippine Basic Education has been facing many challenges, particularly in the quality of education and poor learning outcomes. So recent assessments reveal that Filipino learners, are among the lowest in terms of literacy and numeracy. And in addition, as No mentioned too, adverse climate events in the Philippines happen very frequently, and they lead to a lot of school closures. And mEducation, which started during the pandemic in Botswana through Youth Impact, offers a cheap, flexible, and effective solution to improving learning outcomes. And what's great about mEducation it has only one basic component, a phone call. And what makes different from other interventions is that it's very low tech. Phones do Hello, I'm back. Sorry, my connection got lost. So, how does mEducation work? Um, it borrows from principles of teaching at the right level and structured pedagogy. So, at the beginning, we conduct a baseline to assess the learning level of the participating students. And when we say learning level, it's the highest operation he or she can solve correctly. So this level informs the instruction for the first week of phone tutorial. Meaning, if a student, for example, is only able to solve in the baseline assessment a problem on subtraction, that's going to be the first lesson during the phone call tutorial. So during a weekly phone call tutorial, a household or a student would receive a 20-minute targeted phone session on foundational numeracy. So the sessions focus on addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And the sessions are targeted because the teacher makes sure that the student is able to master an operation before proceeding or before being promoted to the next higher operation. And the tutorial is only 20 minutes because we only ask two questions. So the first question is on is what we call a walkthrough question where the student and the teacher can solve the problem together. And the second exercise or question is what we call a check-in question, where the student should solve the problem on his or her own. And the second question would determine or would help the teacher determine whether the student can be promoted to the next higher operation during the next week's session. So at the intervention, we conduct an end line to assess whether the program has worked for that student or not. We also want to highlight how mEducation supports not only learners who benefit from the individualized instruction, but also the parents who become more involved in the child's learning. And finally, the teachers who gain practical structured approach to target instruction and remote teaching. So, as mentioned a while ago, we used a randomized trial to measure the program's effectiveness during the so the pilot study involved around 3 and grades 4, and they were randomly assigned. Of the study was very who received the phone-based instruction showed substantial improvements in math. Compared to those in the control group. As we can see here, for example, the difference between the treatment and control group in terms of learning outcomes become much more substantial as we go higher the operation. That, for example, those, for example, that received the intervention at division level at the end of the uh, 8 weeks of instruction, there was a there was a 13 percentage point difference in the outcomes between the students who received the program and those that who did not receive the program. So again, very, very significant learning gains in terms of at least being able to answer. Beyond the learning improvements, we found that the mEducation has also improved other other outcomes, such as parents being very, very open to receiving mEducation tutorials again, and learners having showed improvements in perseverance, ambition, confidence, and even enjoyment of school. And one of the highlights of mEducation is also how cost effective it is. If you can imagine, the only cost to this is really the amount is relatively very cheap, for example, compared to other education interventions that are available. You can read about these results in our paper, which, again, as mentioned a while ago, show how the program is effective not only in the Philippines but in 4 other countries. And now that we've proven how mEducation works, now move to the more exciting part, which is how we make sure to reach education at the national level, not just a strong model, but strong implementation systems and training. There. To ensure implementation support, we do give comprehensive teacher training. We also provide call scripts and math. And we provide teachers incentives like communication allowances, certificates, vacation credits in partnership with our school division office partners. We also are trying to build an active resource. Aside from those, we have monitoring systems that allow us to track learners' performance, the implementation, real time. So through this monitoring systems, we are able to check attendance of teachers that ensures accountability, strengthen coaching, and support. It supports continuous improvement of program implementation. And with these systems, we've now developed three delivery models where at which mEducation can be delivered, allowing the program to adapt to different contexts and partners' needs. So our main delivery channel is still through our core model with government teachers, um, where we support the teacher through the mechanisms that I've mentioned a while ago. But we've also expanded our model delivery to involve pre-service teachers or students still in university majoring in education to deliver the program as well. So this is a win-win situation for both of us and our partner universities because it enables their students to have actual teaching experience, actual remote teaching experience, and at the same time, we're able to reach more learners that can no longer be accommodated by their homeroom teachers. And finally, we are also providing support to our NGO partners like Save the Children, who are also very, very interested in delivering this type of program. And across different rounds of implementation, we've seen very consistent results. In this case, for example, the percentage of those who are unable to solve any operation or any basic operation decline significantly after receiving the program. So we've been doing this for 2 years already, and the results have been very, very consistent, which show that children or learners are able to progress as long as they receive focused and consistent support from their teachers or tutors. And to deepen the sustainability of or to deepen our partnerships and sustainability to reach more learners, we follow a very structured scale up strategy that includes capacity building, system integration, and shared accountability with our partners. And we call this like our phase approach, that starts with a test and buy-in phase, wherein IPA would lead all the systems requirements, all the trainings, which will be followed by a shared monitoring phase, where partners begin to co-monitor the program and even the training of the teachers themselves. And finally, we transition to a technology transfer phase where all the activities will be led by our partners. And we're lucky here that one of our school division office partners, who's already at phase 3, will be able to speak more about this experience later on. So that's mEducation in general. And now I'm very excited to introduce an exceptional panel of leaders who bring together perspectives from the implementation, policy, and research side to discuss mEducation and its alignment to their goals. I will start with an introduction of Nika Santos, who's a senior policy associate at JPAL Global, where she supports the education sector in funding research and scaling initiatives in LMICs through the Learning for All initiative. She manages strategic partnerships and advances evidence-based policymaking. Prior to JPAL, Nika worked as a strategy consultant at Teach for the Philippines and taught high school students in Manila for 4 years. Her work spans curriculum design, project-based after-school programs, youth mentorship, and teacher professional development. Nika obtained her master's degree in education from the Harvard Graduate School of Education, and she's also completed a fellowship awarded through the Bloomberg Harvard City Leadership Initiative. We also have here School Division Superintendent Laida L. Mascareñas, who's an accomplished education leader with extensive experience in school administration and educational management. She currently serves as School Division Superintendent of Puerto Princesa City, and previously served as OIC SDS in Calapan City and Marinduque. She has spearheaded initiatives in social mobilization, disaster risk reduction management, educational planning and research, human resource development, youth formation, strengthening school systems, and community engagement. She's pursuing a PhD in education and holds a master in education. Her work has been recognized with awards including Outstanding Secondary Teacher and Best Teacher in Mathematics. Finally, we have Dr. Carmela Oracion, who has dedicated 40 years to education, beginning as a high school mathematics teacher, and since 2007 as the director of the Ateneo Center for Educational Development, she has led initiatives to strengthen public basic education. She has served on CHED's technical panel for teacher education, the technical committee for elementary and secondary education, and the Standing Committee for Higher Education and Teacher Education for EDCOM 2. She was recognized as a 2024 Professional Teacher Awardee by the Professional Regulation Commission and has earned a bachelor's and master's in mathematics and mathematical education, respectively. She also has a doctorate in education from Nanyang University of Singapore and the University College Education. She currently serves as the Assistant Secretary and OIC Undersecretary for Learning Systems in DepEd. Nika, take it away.
Thanks, Jepoy, and good afternoon, everyone. Like Jepoy said, I'm Nika Santos. I'm a Senior Policy Associate at JPAL, or the Abdul Latif Jamil Poverty Action Lab at MIT here in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And today I'm representing the Learning for All initiative, which is a research and scale-up fund based at JPAL. So to give you a bit of context on our perspective, LAI's goal is to fund projects in low and middle income countries that are specifically aimed at improving foundational literacy, numeracy, and equity, particularly for girls. Our initiative is led by our co-chairs, Abhijit Singh from the Stockholm School of Economics, Shula Allen from Cornell University and Bill Kent University, and Karen Mackers from the Paris School of Economics. And we prioritize projects that move the needle on student learning outcomes using rigorous causal evidence. And that's why in late 2025, LAI awarded a $200,000 grant to the Philippines mEducation Scale-Up. So I want to give two main reasons why this specific project met our criteria for funding. The first is its evidence-based foundation. So with our scaling grants at JPAL, we don't fund pilot ideas. Instead, we look for interventions that have already proven their effectiveness through randomized controlled trials like the ones that Noam and Jepoy already described. So JPAL had been involved and had been following the evaluations of Youth Impact's work since its very earliest days. And so for all the reasons that have already been discussed, we knew that mEducation already had a robust evidence base from its performance during the pandemic. And so the second reason why we wanted to make this investment is we want to test the adaptability of the mEducation program. When the proposal for the scale-up project came to us to move this from an emergency pandemic setting into a regular school setting, it raised a valid research question that we knew many people in the academic field and in practice would be interested in. And that's, does this evidence hold up when school doors are actually open? And does it work at scale? And so we felt that answering these questions were worthwhile investments for the global education community. But beyond this project's contribution to the academic literature, there was also a very practical reason for our interest. We are seeing schooling disrupted globally, not just by pandemics, but by conflict and increasingly climate change. And the Philippines, we feel, is at the forefront of this. We're one of the countries that are hit very hardly by climate change. And speaking from my own experience growing up in the Philippines and teaching in Manila, I've seen how typhoons and climate-related disasters don't just cancel school for one day. They erode the limited time that teachers have to cover the curriculum, which is a big frustration for many teachers. And for students who are already lagging behind in the system, the lost days of learning compound. It can set them even farther back and for reasons totally out of their control. And so when we saw mEducation as a potential tool for climate adaptation, we saw this as a way to ensure that learning continues when physical attendance is not an option. And so it's a really pragmatic solution to a recurring problem, not only in the Philippines, but increasingly in many other countries. And finally, a major factor in our decision was the partnership with the Department of Education, or DepEd. Because at JPAL, we believe that for evidence to actually reduce poverty, it has to be integrated into policy. And so we aren't interested in funding projects that don't have a pathway to scale. The fact that the team has had a strong working relationship with DepEd and a strong buy-in to own the program later on gave us a confidence that this wasn't just a research exercise, which we know has value in itself, but it's a program with a viable path toward national scale in the long term. And so while LAI funds a wide range of evaluations and scale-ups globally, we believe that mEducation, this project offers a sensible and evidence-backed approach to a set of challenges that are relevant in the Philippines and in many other countries. And so as the scale-up continues and you make further progress on this project, we look forward to seeing the insights that emerge and how this can help many others beyond the Philippines. But of course, primarily those in the Philippines and the students and teachers here. Thanks, Jepoy.
Thanks, Ika. Now we go to SDS Laida to share her experiences and the experiences of her school division's office in implementing mEducation. SDS Laida, take it away.
Thanks, Jepoy. Hello, good afternoon. Special greetings from DepEd Puerto Princesa City. So let me start my time with by sharing with you some of our stories about how has mEducation supported DepEd Puerto Princesa City Schools in strengthening foundational learning. So of course, mEducation has been a practical and powerful tool for advancing our division's goal of ensuring all learners master basic numeracy. It supported our mission in three direct ways. First, of course, is it allowed us to provide targeted one-on-one support to learners who are struggling instead of leaving students behind in large classroom settings. Teachers could deliver personalized 20-minute point tutorials each week. This meant a child who could not yet add or subtract received focused help exactly where they needed it. Learners moved at their own pace, only advancing to the next operation like moving from addition to subtraction once they could both solve and explain the mathematics. So this method really ensured real understanding of the concept and not just memorization. And the second is that it turned our teachers into more effective tutors and mentors. Our teachers were trained to use simple tools, phones and SMS to reach students outside the school hours. So this extended their role, our teacher's role, beyond the classroom and help them connect with learners personally. Many teachers reported that students who participated became more confident and participated more actively in regular classes. And this alignment with our goal of developing motivated and competent educators strengthened their overall teaching capacity. And the third one is education actively involved parents and created a supportive learning environment at home. The program required consistent communication with parents or guardians, and the disengagement helped families understand their child's progress and how to support learning at home. So as a result, many parents became more involved in their child's education, reinforcing what was taught during the tutoring sessions. And this built stronger home school partnerships, which is essential for sustained foundational training. And education also helped our division turn the challenge of learning gaps into an opportunity for targeted, teacher-led, and family-supported intervention. It provided a clear, scalable way to strengthen basic mathematics skills across our schools directly supporting our commitment to quality and equitable education. And let me talk about how this approach work well for us in DepEd Puerto Princesa City. There are two main factors which made this approach work. Of course, first is that the strong partnership between IPA and our school's division office provided clear structure and consistent support. Our coordinators and school heads took ownership, which helped teachers and parents trust the process. And of course, second is the design was practical and easy to use. It's relied on basic phones instead of computers and internet, which removed major barriers. The weekly tutoring format was simple to follow, and the system of tracking progress helped teachers know exactly when a learner was ready to move to the next skill. So this combination of strong local leadership and the simple structured tools made the program effective and sustainable. Thank you very much.
Thanks, SDS Lida. Very nice to hear how aligned education is with your division goals and the bigger DepEd policy goals. And as we talk of the broader policy goals of DepEd and how education aligns to them, I would like to call on Asek Oracion. Asek Oracion.
Hello, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to IPA Philippines and HundrED for convening this important conversation on scaling what works. I think there are many problems in education, but we also have a sense of what works or maybe what truly works. On behalf of the Department of Education, I commend the IPA Philippines for advancing evidence-based innovation such as this one, mEducation. At DepEd, we recognize that strengthening foundational learning requires innovative solutions, strong evidence, as has been presented a while ago, and collaboration among stakeholders. I guess that's what we are doing this afternoon through this webinar. Programs like mEducation are particularly timely as we look to support learners more comprehensively. Under just a moment, I will just sorry, charge my laptop. All right, moment. Okay. Um. All right. So I think we can clearly see the alignment between education on one hand and DepEd priorities and learning systems targets. Under the learning systems strand, our priorities for the coming years focus on ensuring that all learners are supported holistically. Specifically, we are aiming to ensure smooth transitions from ECCD with nutrition and support. We are aiming to closely monitor and support the most vulnerable learners, including those at risk of repetition or absenteeism. We see a lot of absenteeism from among our learners these days. We are aiming to address input gaps such as congested classrooms, as you may have read or heard from the news. We hope to provide complete learning resources both in school and at home. And in particular, we are aiming at a 1:1 ratio of textbooks to learner this coming school year. Overall, we offer holistic growth opportunities, including co-curricular, extracurricular, and sports activities. These priorities guide our programs, and they form the foundation for how innovations like mEducation can be leveraged effectively. mEducation in particular aligns closely with our priorities for our learners. mEducation strengthens foundational literacy and numeracy, which is very critical, especially for our early grade learners. This extends learning into the home, very important, It provides additional reinforcement beyond the classroom, therefore. It supports our ARAL program, our official remediation program, learning recovery program, by helping accelerate learning recovery, but specifically for those who need this the most. It is cost effective and scalable, making it feasible to implement across diverse regions and contexts. In other words, education does not replace existing programs, it enhances them. And maybe there's really reason to believe that we can scale forward. Looking ahead, scaling education successfully will require a few key strategies. For example, the support of policy, maybe integrating foundational learning frameworks into policy to ensure that innovations are embedded in the system and aligned with overall national priorities. Maybe we have to protect the core design while allowing local adaptation so that the essential elements that make the program effective are kept while divisions can contextualize implementation based on the needs of the learners. It would be important to build system capacity at regional and division levels so that local educators and administrators can implement and monitor programs effectively. And then, importantly, it would be good to sustain partnerships with research organizations, even private researchers, funders, and other stakeholders to provide technical and operational support. So maybe through this, we can help ensure that innovations, no, such as education, do not just reach learners, but they have a lasting impact within the system and can strengthen the system as a whole. In sum, maybe it would help to institutionalize innovation such as education, and it cannot just be about expanding the program. It is about strengthening the system so that every learner receives the support that they need to build their foundational skills, access complete learning resources, and enjoy growth opportunities. Thus, we look forward to continuing collaboration with IPA and all stakeholders to ensure that evidence-based solutions truly make a difference for Filipino learners. I stated at the onset that yes, there are problems, great problems, very wicked problems, but we also know a number of solutions. And what is important is that we have evidence to support these solutions and we can move forward aggressively. So thank you very much for listening. Back to you, Sir Pant.
Thank you, Asek, Orasyon, and to our panelists who have provided very, very good insights on how we can move forward. And what clearly emerged is that education's strength lies in its alignment with community demand, the practical implementation experience, and the system level support. At the same time, the discussion underscored that scaling requires deliberate policy support, sustained financing, and continued attention to implementation quality and fidelity. And encouragingly, there's a very, very strong alignment with the priorities of DepEd with ARAL, suggesting real potential for institutionalization. And as we uh, move forward with the conversation, I would like to invite all our panelists, Nika, SES Lida, Asak Arashon, and Dome, into a deeper conversation, exploring like what this innovation looks like in practice, what makes it distinctive, and how we can take it to scale. And maybe we could start with SDS Lida, especially again as one of your divisions, or as your division is one of our best champions of education, implementing education in almost all the schools in your school division. So how have the learners and parents responded to education so far? Like, were there any changes or feedback that have stood out at your school division office?
Hi, good afternoon again. Of course, when it comes to the feedbacks, um, the learners and parents were really very happy and grateful because of the improvements that they were able to observe from their children, and from the teachers. They were also recording some improvements as regards the performance of their tutees in their respective classrooms, mathematics classrooms, and they're very happy because if they will be looking at because of this performance, looking at the grades of these tutees, there's also a significant increase in their uh, in their uh, in the formative assessments, of course, and then finally in their grades. And they were happy. The parents, although these parents are also working, they are requesting to be really present during the tutorial sessions. And they're asking for a particular time. If they will be at home at 9 o'clock in the evening, they wanted to be with their children at 9 o'clock in the evening or 10 o'clock in the evening, and our teachers grant their request so that the tutorial session will still be a partnership, and it will be extended to their homes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, SES Lida. So again, very, very great to hear what the ground experience is like. And just as a reminder to our participants here, you can also add your questions, which we can discuss later on. Um, so feel free to ask any questions, clarifications on the program and its implementation. But now taking it like more broadly, or taking a broader lens, maybe to Nika, to Asek Mel, and to Anuam, from your perspectives as a funder, as an evidence champion, policymaker, and even as a global implementer, what makes education stand out among education interventions that you've seen in the past? In terms of the mechanics or any other thing that stands out. Maybe we can start with Nika.
Yeah, I think one thing that maybe hasn't been highlighted yet in this discussion is that we think of this as an ed tech intervention, but a low tech ed tech intervention, which is very relevant and important for settings where there aren't many resources to invest in tutoring, in individualized instruction, and when frequent power outages interrupt access to internet, and in fact, many households don't have access to internet. And so being able to use like regular phone calls and SMS, like text messaging, which might be foreign to those of us who are always on Messenger or Viber. I think that's really innovative. And in fact, pretty soon at JPA, we're going to come out with a policy insight on mobile education technology that utilizes these low tech interventions to reach more students. I think in a time when there's a lot of excitement around like AI and the use of like very complex ed tech systems, I think highlighting how even very simple technologies can help scale effective interventions.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Nika, especially again now that there's a lot of buzz in terms of AI and how AI can uh, impact education outcomes. But yeah, there's this small and simple intervention that exists that maybe can be as effective or even more effective, considering the personal connections that teachers, parents, and students build. But yeah, what about for you, Asek Orasyon? Given your 40 years or more experience in the education sector, what makes education stand out as an intervention?
A particular feature of the intervention, which was also identified by Ma'am Laida, would be the possibility of using this at home. I think that's the most important feature of this intervention. See, in many successful systems, there are always after school activities for the learners. We know that, no? Even in countries like Singapore, there's a lot of these tuition classes, the tutorials, we know that, no? But even here, among our private school learners, there's a lot of after school activities. Add to that the reality that in most homes, no, in most homes of successful learners, there's a lot of resources. And that is not true for the general population of our learners. So I think that's the most important feature. We're not replacing instruction because in the end, it is very critical to improve mainstream instruction if we are to advance, no? But right now, where we are really struggling to move forward, given all the learning losses in the past and so on, this one presents an opportunity for after-class activities, no? And I think that's crucial.
Thank you, Asek Oracion. And Nom, as a global implementer of this, what, for example, you think makes this stand out and effective in different contexts?
Sure. So, I mean, I have to say, I think it's one of the most robust pieces of evidence. The fact that it works in so many settings and in so many instances is very unusual. Usually, we don't see that. Usually, we see it works here, it doesn't work there, it worked this time, it doesn't work that time. So, I feel very confident about the effectiveness. I think the question is, what is the most scalable model? Because actually, these kind of one-on-one approaches are hard to scale because by definition, they're one-on-one. And so I think there the question becomes, how do you increase the teacher-student ratio? Or maybe you think about it as very targeted. Maybe it's just the highest needs children who are getting it. So it's not everyone, it's really the kids who are furthest behind. Maybe it is a sort of you flip the switch when there's a disruption, right? So maybe a few kids get it during kind of non-disruption, and when there's disruption, then there's more time so you can reach more children. So I think the effectiveness is very striking and unusual, highly unusual. The consistency, the questions are kind of really pinning down the scalable model.
Thanks, Nom. And as we pivot to the sustainability aspect or even to the right model that you think would fit Mom Lida, given that you're very close to the ground implementation of this, has there any mechanism or at least a model that you think would make this even more sustainable in your school division office?
First, I can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Actually, because of the I was inspired by the success of this program in our division, and I was really motivated when we had our proposal to the city school board, the Puerto Princesa City School Board. And in order that the learners will still be assisted at home and our teachers to be more motivated and let their passions burn to teach our learners. Our city school board approved our proposal of allotting uh, more than 500,000 pesos for the communication allowance of our teachers and of course of the learners also. It's 596,000 pesos to be exact, no. And this will be given to our learners also. I'm thinking of that assisted using the messenger. So because mathematics is visual also, the more that they will be able to what is being instructed by their teachers, if they can see that during a video call or a video call, then they will be able to understand the concept much better. And that's just an ano, something that I would like to happen also in the Puerto Princesa City. And the teachers, since they are really sacrificing their time, they're sacrificing their time to be with their family instead of of attending to their duties as a father or a mother, then they have to attend to their duties. And even during the what do you call this? During weekends, they are spending the whole of Saturday in order to meet all these duties of them, no? So the whole day of Saturday. So I was really amazed by the sacrifice and the passion of our teachers in Puerto Princesa City. And so, of course, our division, me as the SDS authorized as the one authorized to grant service credits, then we're already counting on the number of hours that would be added up to sum up, no, that could be equal to a day of service credit kasi this 20-minute session times 5 is already equal to 100, 100 minutes, which is equivalent to 1.67 hours. So this will help our teachers also, so that the lost time with their families will be what do you call this, will be given uh, time at the other opportunity, staying with their families a later time, if they will be given this service credits. That's it. That's what I am planning to do with our teachers here in Puerto Princesa City. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Lida, again for making sure that the teachers are properly incentivized and supported. And maybe to Nika and to Noam, I'm sure you've seen different aspects or different interventions in many other contexts. So what do you think are the key ingredients for sustainability as we try to do it in the Philippines and many other countries
Yeah.
based from your experiences? Maybe Nika first.
Thank you.
Sure. I think one thing we try to emphasize at JPAL is for there to be a transition plan for the implementing partner to exit the partnership, and for the government partner to then have ownership and have the system set up to actually run the program on its own, have the resources to invest in it, not only financial, but the time needed for training teachers, for training school leaders, to have that infrastructure set up. And so that's why we have these scaling grants, right? Like how do we get from the excitement of this intervention is great and we've been working with Youth Impact or any other implementing partner, to having a school district or maybe the entire DepEd system owning the program and making it their own, basically. And so I think that's one thing that's really exceptional about this partnership and this program, is that there's very strong buy-in, and we're seeing like different phases of the rollout in different parts of the country, which means there are models for you all to point to and say, hey, look, it's working great in Puerto Princesa, so maybe we should try it out in your district too. So that's just one reason why, or one way we can ensure sustainability.
Thanks, Nika. No, anything to add?
Sure. Well, I think the example that Mamlida gave is a great one, right? These are kind of incentives and structures that are already in the system, right? Things like the service credits. And so integrating with existing policies, existing structures, I think is wonderful. And I will say, not all countries have that. So Botswana doesn't have the service credit system, for example, and is actually inspired by the Philippines and other countries now trying to introduce something like that. And so I think those structures that DepEd has are really on the cutting edge. And so leveraging those is really exciting. So yeah, just to say, I think that's a great, with more of those kind of things and really spreading that around other districts would be great. The other thing I would say is, I think we want to, so mEducation is a package, right? And it's a well-defined package, but there's also principles. And those principles could take many forms, right? So the principle of assessing the children frequently, it's actually the same principle that's in CRLA, RMA, right? Those assessments, right? The principle of giving individualized attention is similar to grouping children, right? So that they get more attention. The principle of reaching into the household. The one thing I think as we scale and we sustain, it's like when a small baby becomes bigger, it doesn't just become a bigger baby, right? It doesn't look the same. It becomes an adult, it has the same DNA, but it looks different. And the same for a program when it scales. So I think thinking about how the same principles can be operationalized within the DepEd system is important. So it's not just sets of activities, right? It's principles that are really being scaled and integrated.
Yeah, that's a very, very good insight. And I think, as a final question and relatedly to ASEC or Rashon, now that we're thinking of doing it at scale, like what are the policy or system support available to DepEd to be able to roll it out nationwide? And how do we make sure, for example, that there's still the core or the fidelity to the program or to the principles while allowing local adaptation?
Actually, our total number of learners is really very huge, no? And so I don't know if Ma'am Laida will agree, but maybe there is not one particular intervention that should have the monopoly of getting us to where we want to go. I mean, many things ought to have been done yesterday. We all know that, no? That's a reality in this country of ours. And because of that, there's really a lot of catching up to do. So I think that we just keep on, no? Keep on doing things, scaling up until the the demand for it really becomes very great. It may not be good to do it from the top, no, because we have already been criticized for that we are a very authoritative system, a very democratic system, that certain partners in the past, and Ma'am Laida is smiling as you can see here, certain interventions from the past requested for a memo from the Department of Education and things happened. So we want this to be really very demand driven rather than supply driven, I guess. So we want the demand to be so great that the learners pass on to their siblings or to their schoolmates that this is such a great help in their own success. And maybe that's what can make things happen.
Yeah, I fully agree, uh, Dr. Oracion. And again, very, very interesting insights. And as we plan the next few months or even years of implementing education and other targeted interventions with DepEd, we'll make sure to keep them in mind. And now I think we're at time, but I'll pass it on to Aftab to do the closing remarks and maybe share how we can all partner, especially to those who are not very familiar with IPA yet. The next steps forward. After, over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Japar, and thank you, everybody. It's such a wonderful discussion we're having. So as we close, well, we see three next steps around three big priorities. So I see the first and foremost priority is to expand this program across schools and divisions. So building on this strong evidence of its impact, again, scaling across multiple school division offices and schools. Since the pilot, we have reached to say over 400 schools, so 1,200 teachers and over 11,000 learners. So this strongly demonstrates that this low-cost tutoring program can reach learners who need it most and deliver measurable impacts in foundational learning. Secondly, we aim to institutionalize the program within the government system. I think that is so important for its sustainability as well as to get the required level of skills. So we're working closely with the Department of Education so that we can embed the mEducation program into the existing structure. and teacher support mechanisms. So we are having discussion on how mEducation can be integrated within the TERL math as a recommended implementation option. We are also having a separate discussion to develop a memorandum of understanding to support the nationwide scaling up. Several school division offices are allocating local resources, which is so encouraging, right? For teacher training and communication allowances. While some divisions have already embedded mEducation division-wide into their local education plans. So this really demonstrates that the growing government ownership, and also indicate that this is going to be a sustainable program. And thirdly, we want to strengthen the partnership for long-term impact. We will continue to build a strong collaboration with universities. We already have few. We'll expand more, NGOs, and then private sector partners to support the teacher development, implementation, and sustainability. So this partnership ensures that the program can be delivered effectively at scale and continuously improved. So ultimately, our goal is clear. We want to move from pilot to institutionalization and ensuring that a proven and this local solution for foundational learning is embedded within the public education system in the Philippines. So we want to work together with whoever is interested. So if you want to learn more, let us explore, let us discuss, and let's see whether we can form a partnership to work together. And thank you, HundrED, and all of our partners for helping us scale that works. Thank you.
Thank you, Aftab, and thank you all for attending our session. I hope you were able to learn something from our intervention being done in the Philippines. We have resources available at our website. So if you have any further questions, you can go to our website or just contact us here, and we can have another or a separate meeting on this. Thank you also to Nika, to Noam, to SDS Laida, and to Ase Corazon for your time and for your wonderful, wonderful insights. That's
You.
all. Thank you all
Thank
so much, and
you.
have a good day.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Yeah.